Hey guys, welcome back to Musings of Mavri. I'm your host Mavri, and today we're going to be looking at Tensura episode 10. So, last episode we saw a little bit more of the abilities of Rimuru, as well as knowing that he got a whole new power that allows him to basically evolve his abilities. So I'm really looking forward to seeing when that's going to come into play and see what new things that he comes up with, so we can see the creativity of Rimuru. And then we also had some encounters with ogres. Yeah, I believe they were called ogres, even though, like I mentioned in my review last time, they don't really seem like our traditional ogres. But what the hey. And I'm assuming in this episode he's going to name them, because that seemed to be something that he was going to do in the last episode. And also maybe help them resolve their situation. Like, it seems to be that or their village or the kingdom or whatnot was invaded by some orcs who I'm assuming came from the other mysterious dude from 2 episodes ago, where he was in a desert-like area and then he granted the names and powers to an orc. So, anyways, without further ado, let us get into the episode. We skip the opening as usual, and let us begin in 3, 2, 1, play. The Orc Lord. Delicious? It's probably delicious. That was definitely female Rimuru there. Yeah, you eat that. Ogres are. Oh, so orcs are a weak race. Okay, so a village, not a kingdom. Yeah, their pigs alright. Hmm. What exactly is Majin in this context? Servants of the Demon Lord? Okay. Good, they answered my question this time. Okay, so it seems that these orcs, goblins, and ogres are not typically subordinates of the Demon Lord. Oh.
図るにせよ、他の地に移り住むにせよ、仲間の命運はお前の采配にかかってるんだろ。知れたこと、力を蓄え再度挑むまで。
Now I just noticed their archetypes seems to be somewhat ninja-like.
こりゃノープランだな。提案なんだけどさ、お前たち全員俺の部下になる気はあるか？
部下？
ま、俺が支払うのは衣食住の保証のみだけどな。拠点があった方がいいだろ。
しかし、それではこの町を俺たちの復讐に巻き込むことに。
まあ、別にお前たちのためだけってわけじゃない。数千の、しかも武装したオークが攻めてきたんだろう。誰か魔王が糸を引いているかもしれない。
オークどもはこのジュラの大森林の支配権を狙っているやもしれませんな。
うん。この町だって決して安全とは言えないだろうな。そんなわけで戦力は多い方がこちらとしても都合がいい。逆にお前たちに何かあった時には俺も一緒に戦う。俺は仲間を見捨てない。
なるほど。少し考えさせてくれ。
おう、じっくり考えてくれ。さてと、俺はもう少し肉をもらってこようかな。
It's certainly not easy just to become subordinates of another person, and even of another race. And to be honest, they don't even know who Rimuru is, right? Build a nation. Well, that means he's a good leader. You know, honestly, I think he's just naming them because he wants to be able to call them something. So maybe naming a high-level monster is a little bit different.
リムル様のお世話は私がします。どうぞお休みなさってください。シオンたらもう。
ん
リムル様、おはようございます。どちら様だっけ？待って、なんか記憶があやふやなんだけど。
Wait, what?
確かオーガたちに名付けしようとしてて、あれれ。
お目覚めになられたか、リムル様。
オーガの若様だよな。
は、今は進化して鬼人となり、頂戴した名のベニマルを名乗っています。
ベニマル。
思い出した。名付けした途端スリープモードになったんだ。てかなんだって？鬼人？オーガじゃなくて？
鬼人とはオーガの中から稀に生まれる種族のことです。
Huh. The kanji for that is actually Oni. Oni in person, so...
これはあれか。ディグルドショックの再来か。オーガから進化して鬼人になったってことだよな。リムル様、シュナです。
シュナ。
お目覚めになられて本当によかった。シュナ。
But when did he name them?
オーガのお姫様か。もともと可愛かったけど、さらに美少女になったな。
Yeah.
シオンです。リムル様につけていただいた名前、とても気に入っています。このおっぱい美人がシオン。野生味が薄れて知的な雰囲気になったな。ベニマルの後ろに控えてるのは、俺の腕を切り飛ばしてくれたじいさんだな。
Huh. Their names all have colors within them. So red, blue, purple, white. Oh, basically their hair color? Is that how he's naming them? That would make sense. Okay. Not quite a color, but sky color. Okay. But he was... They didn't even show him naming them. He was just about to name them.
や、
black.
美少女、美女、ロマンスグレー、イケメンときて、最後に普通の
Because he's similar to Rimuru in his former life. Whoa. They weren't kidding when they were talking about full plate armor.
ジュラの大森林に起こった異変は確実に侵食を続けていた。ジュラの大森林、その中央に広がる湖。
シス。
その周囲には湿地帯が広がっている。リザードマンが支配する領域である。
報告します。シスコ南方にて多くの軍勢を確認。我らリザードマンの領域への侵攻と思われます。多くだと。戦の準備をせよ。豚ごとき蹴散らしてくれるわ。
数はどのくらいなのだ。
それが多くの軍勢。その数およそ20万。
200,000?
我々の20倍もの軍勢だと。
魔力感知と熱源感知で何度も確認しました。この命にかけて真実であります。ご苦労。下がって休むがよい。はっ。20万だと。その馬鹿げた数の豚どもの胃袋をどうやって満足させることができるというのだ。そもそも奴らは勝手気ままで協調性のない連中。20万などという途方もない数を統率できようはずもない。噂ですが、多くの軍勢がオーガの里を滅ぼしたとか。なんだって。
Well, if it was 200,000, then 300 people, ogres, whatever, don't really stand a chance, right?
伝説のユニークモンスターオークロードの存在を疑わねばなるまい。オークロード
Orc Lord.
だが万が一そうであるなら、オークどもが大軍をまとめ上げることができた理由の説明はつきますな。しかし、その目的は、そんなことはどうでもよろしい。問題は勝てるかどうかですぞ。
So is the Orc Lord a type of unique monster, or is it a title?
厳しいだろう。
It was born, right? So I'm guessing it's a unique class of monster.
味方の恐怖の感情すらも食らう正真正銘の化け物なのだからな。可能性の話だ。だが打てる手は全て打つべきだ。
撃てる手と言いますと。
援軍を頼むべきだろうな。息子よ、我が息子はおるか。
ここにおりますよ。ですが親父殿、その呼び方はいささか無粋ではありませぬか。我が輩にはガビルというゲルミュッド様からいただいた名前があるのですから。
呼び方などどうでもよかろう。お前にやってもらいたいこと。
Okay. Some family problems?
伺いましょう。甘い甘い。ほらほら、打ち返してこんか。
ゴータがお気楽に剣術を習いたいと言ったらこのありさまだ。白狼、まさに鬼コーチである。オークロード？なんだそりゃ。
まあ簡単に言うと化け物です。
本当に簡単だな。
数百年に一度多くの中に生まれると言われている。
Okay, so it's a special type of, it's a unique monster. Boss level, basically.
恐怖の感情すらも食うため異常に高い統率能力を持つんだとか。
うへえ。
里を襲った多くどもは仲間の死にまるでひるむことがなかった。あるいはと思いまして。
なるほど。
まあ可能性でいや非常に低い話です。
他には里が襲われた理由の心当たりはないか？
そうですね。関係あるかわかりませんが、襲撃の少し前にある魔人が里にやってきて、
Hmm.
なおやろうと言ってきたんですが、あまりにうさんくさかったので追い返しましたところ、悪態をつきながら帰っていきましたね。
魔人ね。そいつから恨みを買っている。
Wait, so does naming someone
仕方ありませんよ。
also have the...
こっちだってごめんだ。名をつけてもらうのも
Okay,
誰でもいいってわけじゃ
so accepting a name does mean that they become their master.
なんて名前だったかな。確かゲラ、ゲリ、ゲレ、ゲロ、ゲルミュッドだ。そう、それだ。
ゲルミュッド。なんか聞いたことあるような気がするな。お、リグル君、君のお兄さんは誰に名前つけてもらったの？
は、兄は通りすがりの魔族のゲルメット様につけて。
Okay, so that's where it was. I thought I kind of remembered that name.
魔王軍の幹部です。
同じやつっぽいな。あちこちで名前をつけてんのか？なぜ？
報告がございます、リムル様。
ああ、
リザードマンの一行を目撃しました。
リザードマン？オークじゃなくて？
はい。湿地帯を拠点とする彼らが、こんなところまで出向くのは異常ですので、取り急ぎご報告をと。何やら近くのゴブリン村で交渉に及んでいるようでした。ここにも、いずれ来るかもしれません。
そうか。リザードマンが。
And here they are.
たく親
とは思えぬ。昔はあんなにも大きく偉大な男だったというのに。
ねえねえ、ガビル様はいつ狩猟になるの？
いやいや、少々不遜なことを言ってしまったが、我が輩など親父殿には遠く及ばんよ。
そっかな。今のガビル様ならきっと全盛期の狩猟にも劣らねえぜ。
しかり。
いや、そんなことは。
だってガビル様ネームドだし。
その槍さばきにおいて右に出るものなし。あんた今立たないでいつ立つんだよ。
Okay. Yeah. You know, this should be a pretty serious thing that they're saying. Basically mutiny, but this background music though. Okay, this is probably going to be a joke character. Well, at least his men like him. Alright. I'll see you guys in a second for my thoughts and review. So, that was episode 10 of Tensura, and we got a lot more information regarding the orcs now, and we also managed to see the ogres getting named and evolving. So let's start with that first. So apparently, the evolved form of ogres is called Kijin, which, if you look at the kanji, it basically means Oni, or demons, plus men, or people. So I guess I'm kind of right in the sense that they are a sort of reference to the Onis of Japanese culture, you know, what with their horns and stuff. So, but apparently this is probably a made-up race by the author. But it's pretty clear that the inspiration is probably taken by Onis of traditional folklore, right? So, they evolved, and you know, regarding the naming part, I think something, I was making this comment there, and I feel if I were to be transported into that situation as well, I would probably go about naming everything as well, because it just makes everything easier when you want to call out to someone, right? You don't have to say, hey, you, or whatnot, because the monsters say that they can telepathically communicate with each other, but it appears that Rimuru isn't quite able to do that, I guess. And, you know, being a human, he's probably just much more acquainted with calling people by their names. So I'm guessing that's partly the reason why he wants to name everyone, not out of any altruistic reason or trying to gather bigger, stronger companions, right? And I also find it kind of funny how his naming convention is. So in the past, when he was naming the goblins, he simply, from a certain point on, decide they were just going to be called Goblin plus some form of a number, and that would make up their name, right? So here it's even, it's a little bit more unique in that he managed to name them all by the color of their hair, right? So if you look at the kanji that comes up when their names show up, basically the first word is always a color, a certain color. So the prince or king or whatever, that dude is red something, Beniharu, I believe, but his color is red. His sister, that one, even though her hair is pink, it's actually, the kanji for it is a sort of, it's a sort of red, okay? And then you got the other purple-haired girl, so her name starts with purple. You got the white-haired old dude, so his name is White, and then there's also the blue-haired sort of ninja-looking dude, right? And his name it's not quite a color, but it can also be used as a color. The kanji used there is actually similar to sky, so I'm not quite sure in Japanese whether they use the same thing as a reference to color, but essentially it's blue, right? It's light blue though. And then finally we have the black-haired dude with his name starting with black. And if you look at his actual name as well, it seems that uh, it has something to do with armor or weaponry. So that would explain why he took a specific liking to the dwarves and he wants to learn their craft. He's probably going to be another guy who's going to help make weapons and armor. So that was it. I just thought it was a neat little thing to point out, and it does make things easier, right? You can just remember, okay, this is the red-haired guy, that is the purple-haired guy. Good thing that they all had different hair colors, right? Otherwise, Rimuru would be in a pinch. And I also really dig their new, how do I say it, style? Their new design, character design, right? So, because looking at the opening and ending, I would have thought that they would keep their original ogre forms, but, or even in battling. But it seems that they've changed, so don't know whether it's going to be remaining like this way all the time, or they'll still revert back to their ogre form when they're fighting, or whatnot. And so, blah blah blah, after that, we get to see the conflict, and we know a little bit more about the orcs, as well as a new race, the lizardmen. So, knowing about the orcs, 200,000 soldiers, that actually is useful information, right? So, this gives us a point of reference to what we can normally expect in terms of numbers within this world. So, it's not going to be armies where like 10,000 people is considered a huge army, and it's also not going to be one of those situations where there's going to be an army consist of millions and millions of people, right? So this is a nice sort of like point of reference for everything. So you can generally expect the armies in this world to number in the maybe 100,000s, and that would be a respectable army, right? But it's not going to be something crazy like 1 million. And then they also have mention of an Orc Lord. So originally I thought this was going to be a extension of the title system, which, so in the past few episodes I've always been wondering whether or not this series actually has a title system. I know they have a naming system where if you name some monster they will evolve and gain strengths, but whether or not this also has a title system as well, which can give bonus attributes. So because of this, I actually, when I was doing some research on the Tensura wiki, I did find out that yes, there are titles in this world. I didn't look up the specifics of how they are utilized, but at least I can confirm their existence. But it seems that this is not a title. This is being an Orc Lord is not something you earn, apparently. It's something that you're born into. So this is more of a unique type of monster spawn. At least that's what I'm getting right now from their explanations. And then what else is there? So, the Lizard Man, eh. Well, actually, no, wait. We'll leave the Lizardman for last. Next thing I want to talk about is regarding the naming system. So, I just mentioned the title system. I'm curious how it actually works, but apparently we're not going to see it yet. But even a naming system, we should get a little bit more information about it, because I'm still a little bit confused on whether or not naming a monster means you become their de facto master, right? Because in this episode, when Red-Hair Dude, Beniharu? No, wait, Benimaru, I believe, was talking with Rimuru about how Imagine came up and wanted to name them, but he rejected because he didn't want to accept it to be accept as master, just any other monster, right? So I'm kind of curious whether this means that naming monsters automatically means that you'll become their master, because that seems to be what Red-Haired Dude is inferring to. Is that so though? Because if you think about it, even though, yeah, even though Gupta's, or the original, the brother of the killed brother of the Goblin village, he was named, but did he necessarily view the Majin who named him as his master? And also because within this episode, originally the ogres said that they only wanted the contract to last until they got rid of the orcs, right? But now that Rimuru has named him, does he become their de facto master that's not going to be revoked? I don't know, right? So again, this is something that can probably use a little more explanation, just to let us know about the mechanisms of this world. Either it's going to be a major plot point, so it's not yet explained, or it's just the fact that this is a condensed series of the light novel, so they decided not to mention anything about it because they deem it not important, which is also equally plausible the case. And lastly, I want to talk a little bit about the Lizardmen. Lizardmen. So, it seems that in this world, lots of different races have their own kingdoms or villages or towns or nations, whatnot. Um, and they're actually not all under the Demon Lord, right? So far we've seen ogres, we've seen the goblins, we've seen the lizardman, and they all pretty much have their own society to live in. And so I'm also assuming that this means this is a world where communication between different races do exist. So monsters are not just monsters that you kill on sight. Although again, I'm kind of curious what is the difference between, say, a normal monster like a slime or the monsters that Rimuru met in the cave, right? He met a lot of like snakes and serpents and armored monsters and whatnot. What makes them different from, say, the lizard man or the goblins, right? Is there a specific, like, are there specific tiers, or is it just intelligence based, or how are they actually uh, how are they exactly categorized, right? That's also something that I'm really curious about, and perhaps it's something that I'll have to look up myself, because it appears that this anime is not really explaining much. Um, so the Lizardman, and I just want to finally comment on the prince, I guess you could call him, uh, Gabiru. Gabiru. So it seems that he wants to force his father to abdicate from the throne and take over as chief himself. And there seems to be some sort of friction within their kingdom already. We saw a scene where he was glimpsing, or he was staring at the girl who was beside the current chief. So maybe they're related somehow, or maybe it's his sister, and then that girl is actually next in line to the throne, or something like that. Or maybe she's just a close confidant of the chief, and this prince or whatever views her as a thorn by his side, right? So I mentioned that I actually enjoy the series where the main characters have a hand in the politics of the human world. But since currently this series seems to be progressing more towards the main character Rimuru is assembling his team or his army based on non-humans, I'm thinking that maybe he's going to instead have a hand in the politics of other races. And this would seem to be an internal affair that probably Rimuru is going to help change somehow. And since, like I said, during the entire scene with Gibaru, it was using a very, funny, joking kind of background music. I'm assuming that this is also a joke character and he's not going to become chief in the end, right? So yeah, that about concludes this episode. I don't think there's anything much more to comment. Let me know if I missed anything special or particular here, and if not, I guess we'll just wait until the next episode. So 2 episodes are left within this season. I'm kind of curious what exactly they can do within 2 episodes to give a sort of conclusion to the first season and still make sense. So maybe just defeat the orc army and form an alliance with the lizard man. I guess that would be a conclusion for the season 1. At least that's what I'm assuming right now anyways. So, 2 episodes to go. Let's see how it goes from here. This has been Mavry. You've been watching Musings of Mavry, and I'll see you guys next time.